Hey, I wanted to show you this trick that I've been using more and more lately. I first discovered it when I wanted to make like staccato strings and staccato choir a little bit more attacky. So instead of using compressors or EQ and stuff, I just use this transient shaper from Softube. Which I like a lot. I feel like it's one of the more natural sounding transient transients shapers. And this is nothing revolutionary, using a transient shaper on strings, I don't think. But let's just, for the sake of it, compare how it sounds with and without. Pretty standard, nothing revolutionary, just tighten it up a little bit. But this got me into the thinking that usually I like the sound, the EQ curve of things. I just want a little bit more or less of it in the mix. So by EQing, trying to get stuff out, I feel like I'm kind of butchering the sound a lot of the times. I mean, EQ is really powerful and the go-to is usually to EQ everything, but this got me into thinking that maybe I can use this transient shaper for more things. So let's jump over to some drums first, which is like the typical thing to use it on. Now again, nothing revolutionary using transient designers on drums, but on these drum rooms, for example, the cymbals are like the most prominent thing. And to EQ out the cymbals, you lose a lot of the attack and the snap in the snare and the toms. But I feel like with the transient shaper, you don't lose any of that. You can just reduce the volume of the cymbals, but leave the sustain and the snap and the punch from the drums. This got me thinking even more that if I could reduce the high end and bring it back, or bring back the wideband or low band with this, maybe it can work on other things as well, like for example guitars. I mean, if you have a sound that you're really happy with, but you have this annoying high-end hiss that just masking everything, and masking frequencies in guitars is a real thing. I have found that I have a lot of producer friends and we're always sharing songs and looking for feedback from others, and a lot of the times when people don't know why their mix isn't sounding like they think it should. They're doing all the right things, but there's something missing and it just sounds flat and they're not getting everything out of it. Usually what that is frequency masking, and usually the guitars are like through the entire mix, and that will make everything sound flat. Even if you're doing things, you can't really hear it because that frequency is just constantly in the way of everything. And there are several ways to get that out. You can use Pro Q and just notch, but what you run into when you're doing that usually is you notch one frequency, but it's still kind of there. It's better, but it's there. Okay, so you look for the next one. Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah, it's better, but it's still kind of there, so you're looking for the next one. Oh, you found here. You try to make it more or less it, etc., etc. But you can't really get it to work, or you can. Sometimes you do. Sometimes it's the perfect thing to do and it works perfectly. Sometimes it's not. But if you're not really getting it with that, what are your next go-through? Well, maybe BX refinement, which I think usually, if it's just a little bit, BX refinement is actually really good at finding those frequencies and taming it. This is my preset. I have it on -3 dB. If that works, it's great. If I need to go higher than that, then this isn't the right tool, because then I'm just neutering the sound and taking away all the good high end. So let's go for the next one. Well, Soothe 2, another perfect example. I find that Soothe 2 isn't very good at all at finding the constant hissing frequencies. It's really good at finding those peaking, like on cymbals, where there's just a resonance in the cymbal that isn't constant. It's really good at finding those, but not the hissing one. Maybe I'm just using it wrong, but I've never gotten Soothe to work very well for that. And same thing as with BX refinement, is if it's doing just a little bit and that works, then great. But if you're doing too much, it starts neutering the sound and killing off everything. So what I found instead was actually using the, let's see if I can find one here, the Transient Shaper again. And I'm doing the same trick where I'm adding high-end punch to just have the attack come back, and I'm reducing the sustain in the high end. So on these lead guitars in the chorus, I used Transient Shaper more to, not as much to get the high-end fizz out. There was a little bit, but I could have used BX Refinement or Pro Q or whatever to take that away. It was such a small amount, but I used it more to get it out of the way from the vocals, and because on this chorus there is full orchestra going, there's like 8 or 9 vocal tracks, full guitars, drums, etc. So I use Transient Shaper to kind of like just get it out of the way a little bit. And this is what it sounds like in comparison. Yeah, like I said, the high end wasn't really an issue. We recorded the lead guitars pretty clean without a lot of gain, and usually the more gain you put into this, the guitar sound, the more hiss and stuff you will be getting. And we pushed more mids rather than high end. So on these tracks I used it more to just put it behind the vocals instead of being up front. There's another trick I like to do, and I will probably do it on this as well. This is a working mix. But if you're also finding that lead guitars are kind of like a little bit harsh and in the way, just put a reverb right on top of it. Don't use a send. You can use a send, but putting it straight onto the guitar track itself will take away a lot of the annoying stuff and you get it out of the way. But let's check out the rhythm guitars, because that's where it usually shines. I haven't done it on this mix, but I know these guitars have a lot of high end, and that is my fault because I did the sound. I don't feel like I need to do it now because I think the guitars are in a pretty good place, but I want to show you in real time how I usually do to take away that fizzy high end in the guitars with a transient designer. As you can hear, you can really turn that hiss into a level knob on this sustain band. And together with the punch, you can really get it to not lose that much of attack. It's sounding really, really, really natural. And I do want to say, I have tried this with other transient, multiband transient shapers, transient designers. I tried Transify, but I couldn't get that one to work really. I don't know if this works with the transient designer from SPL. I don't have that one, but like I said in the beginning, I've found this transient shaper from Softube to be one of the more natural sounding ones. I use it more on things like orchestra and right now guitars, sometimes bass and stuff like that, than I am actually using it on drums. Well, on this session, if you can see, I use it all over the place, simply because I like the sound we got. I recorded this and I like the sounds we got. I have already EQ'd a little bit on the board when we recorded. I have done all the things I wanted to do before getting into the mix, and by using the transient shaper a lot to just move things out of the way, get them closer to where I want them. I'm actually not even using the EQ because I don't have to as much. So yeah. I've been on kind of a cowboy journey these past weeks, trying out different new things and trying out tools that, usually used elsewhere. But I'm trying out different tools to do different jobs. And this is one I found pretty recently, and I told a bunch of my producer friends, and they found it really useful. So yeah, just to top it off, this band is Eldfärd. I'm currently mixing, and we can listen to the chorus a little bit, and then I will bid you adieu. So, bye!